Hello, and in this video, we will be talking about the text ramp process. So this video will help you get an overall idea of what to expect with the text ramp process and help you plan with general timelines. So to start out with the text ramp process, what I'll primarily go over in this video is the process when it comes to achieving certification. I'll lightly go over continuous monitoring and renewal as well. But to start out with, for achieving certification, during this process in itself, there are phases in there that will help you with preparation, actually going through with the request, completing the assessment, and ultimately being granted certification. So if we were to look at each of these steps within this process, the first we'll talk about is the assessment initiation part. In this part of the process, this phase will really help you with preparation. Things you'll want to consider is you'll want to evaluate if you are in scope, how you will prepare and manage the text ramp request itself, and if there are other considerations that need to be made. Particularly information gathering, seeing if there are upcoming deadlines you have to adhere to, the impact to your current and potential customers, who are your stakeholders, things of that nature. And when we're talking about text ramp scoping, some of the things you want to consider is what text ramp certification level is required, and impact it may have, things of that nature. More information about this can be found in our text ramp manual. So once you have some of this information gathered, it may be helpful at this point to go through planning, actually seeing what are the text ramp requirements when it comes to the security controls and maintaining compliance. What are the resources that are needed? What are the timelines that you have internally? Things of that nature. Also, what would be helpful is communication, communicating to your stakeholders, your current customers, potential other customers, anyone else that may need to be involved in this text ramp submission process. So once you have all that information and you're ready to proceed, next is actually submitting the request to us. So the assessment request, you'll submit a request to us and designate your points of contact. What happens next is those contacts will receive an acknowledgement and inventory form, which they will then have to complete. Once we receive that form back, we will review it. Then we will grant provisional certification as needed or reach out if further clarification is needed. A notification will be sent out, and later at that point, once designated, an assessment questionnaire will be launched to your contact as you have specified what level certification you are requesting. Then we enter into the assessment phase. During this phase, you will be completing the level 1 or level 2 assessment questionnaire, which would have been launched out to you. While you're completing that assessment questionnaire, you will then be able to delegate other team members to complete it as well. But once finished, you will then submit it back to us. When we receive the assessment questionnaire, an assessor will be assigned, and that assessor will evaluate your assessment questionnaire that you have completed. If they have questions, they will reach out to you. If they require additional information, you may have a conversation with them or your designated contacts that you have listed. When the evaluation is complete, the assessor will then communicate with you if they do require additional information, else the evaluation is completed and it's final, where it's been being sent for certification. During this phase, this is where the assessment has been reviewed, is being looked at, and a certification decision is being made. Once a certification decision is being made, such as your certification is granted for your text ramp submission, a notification will then be sent out to you. So that in essence wraps up the process on actually going through and receiving a text ramp certification. But after that, you go into continuous monitoring. So for continuous monitoring, there are more details within our text ramp manual that is available on our website. But at a high level, what this involves is reporting information so that your customer agencies have the ability to review that information, and they may reach out to you as needed with their own due diligence. Then, because your text ramp certification does have an expiration date of 3 years, you will also need to prepare for renewal. So what that would look like is before your text ramp certification does expire, you will prepare for renewal, also go through the assessment initiation process, start this process all over again, and aim for your target to have recertification before your active text ramp certification expires. So just things to consider. That wraps up the process. Now let's talk a little bit about estimated timelines at a high level, just so that you get an idea of how to plan for this. Of course, there's always going to be variables that come into play that may affect these timelines, so these are only estimates to help you plan. Some of the larger factors that do come into play, though, include completeness of submission, the responsiveness of inquiries assessors may have, and the volume of submissions in queue ahead of your submission. So let's look at the timeline for these different steps. Although we can't control how long it takes for you to prepare and gather the information during the assessment initiation phase, when you submit the request to us during the assessment request phase, you can expect to achieve provisional certification normally within 1 month. Of course, we have asterisks throughout this timeline because there might be variables at play, but that'll include receiving the acknowledgement inventory form. Once you have completed it, send it back to us and we can review it and provide provisional certification at that time. One of the other large items to consider during this timeline is the actual time it takes for you to complete the assessment questionnaire or your delegated contacts and resources within your organization. We'll send you that assessment questionnaire, and normally by default, we will set that assessment questionnaire to be completed within 3 months. You can complete that assessment questionnaire earlier than the 3 months, or you can also request it later. There will be a due date designated on that assessment questionnaire. If you do need that assessment questionnaire due date to be extended, you can coordinate with our text ramp team to extend that due date, which will entail contacting our text ramp team as well as sending that assessment questionnaire back in its current state so that we may update that due date and send it back to you for completion. But using an estimate of about 3 months, which is the time that it normally takes to complete an assessment questionnaire, will continue. The next part is the actual assessment evaluation. So again, factors may be in play, but once an assessor actually picks up your assessment and starts evaluation, usual turnaround time for assessment evaluation to be completed is 1 month. If there are additional questions, if there are other inquiries they may have, of course that timeline may be extended a little, but they will be in communication with you if they do have additional questions. Then lastly is the certification decision. At most, the decision can take a month, but you will be notified once certification decision is made. All of this is happening within the provisional certification timeline. So as you can see, it is very beneficial to submit that assessment questionnaire back as soon as possible, since that's one of the items that takes the most amount of time. But ultimately, you want to complete this entire step to achieve text ramp certification before your provisional certification expires within that 18 months. So also for reference, I've included in here, what you'll see is the text ramp certification lasts for 3 years. So that'll be when you're performing your continuous monitoring and also going through renewal, which you want to ensure this is cyclical. You'll submit your submission for recertification and ensure that you receive your TextRamp certification before your existing certification expires. So that wraps up the information I have for you in this video. We've talked about the process as well as estimated timelines for TextRamp submissions. Please feel free to check out our website where you'll find more TextRamp information and resources available, and also contact our mailbox if you need further assistance. Thank you.